Do you remember the first time you saw Mean Streets?
Yeah, I saw it when it came out in 1973 with my mother.
With your mother?
Yeah. No, she took me to see. I was 13 years old.
Okay, I was going to ask if it was a date.
It wasn't.
Well, did you
It
see it in
wasn't
New York?
that kind of relationship. I didn't see it at the New York Film Festival. I grew up in Massachusetts. I saw it there. When you're 13 years old, it's not like I didn't comprehend everything that I saw up on the screen, but I could never ever forget the Be My Baby, the drum beat, the cutting on Harvey Keitel, falling and splitting it into different movements, and then going into the home movies. That was something alarming. And there are certain moments in the movie that, when I say alarming, what I mean is exciting, arresting.
Yes.
And I remember very well, I think, the acuity of it,
Yes.
which becomes all the more startling once you know that the film was, every time it goes inside, it's Los Angeles. And the rest of it was shot, the exteriors were shot in New York. And it's so carefully interwoven. And he brought, a plastic replica of a New York tin ceiling with him.
Really?
So that, because he knew, precisely what he wanted, and when he didn't have it, he would recreate it. One thing that I just want to say is that my name is Kent Jones, but I'm actually part Italian-American, and I cannot overstate the importance of Mean Streets on the one hand, and followed by Raging Bull in 1980, and the Godfather films on the other, because before them, you would see movies about Italian people, such as Love with the Proper Stranger, starring Steve McQueen and Natalie Wood as Italians. Hey, and suddenly that changed.
Yeah.
Also, when John Travolta, made Saturday Night Fever, it may not be as great a film, but it shifted the balance of the way that people, particularly Italian Americans, were portrayed, foreigners and particularly Italian Americans in cinema.
The Season of the Witch, which was the original kind of title of the content, was thought up in 66, 67.
Yeah, I mean, the story goes, basically Mean Streets it's true. It's not just autobiographical. It's really, it's the thing, the shooting in the car is something that really happened to Marty, to some friends of his, and he was almost in that car. It is something that he did make another autobiographical film before Mean Streets called Who's That Knocking at My Door, and it was basically his senior thesis film. John Cassavetes saw Who's That Knocking at My Door and liked it very much, and then he saw Boxcar Bertha. And there's a very famous story after it was over. Marty said, "What did you think?" And he said, "I think it's wonderful. You did a great job, but you just spent 2 years of your life working on a piece of shit. What you need to do is concentrate on what you want to make." And Marty said, "Well, I have this script that I wrote with my friend Mardik Martin called Season of the Witch." And he said, "Then that's what you should be doing."
In your research or thoughts about the film, did you ever come across what may have been the original iteration of the script? And when Marty works, how different is the finished work than the original script?
He was trained as an editor, first of all, and I mean, the other thing to know is that he edited this film himself. It's just that he wasn't in the union, so he had to give the credit to someone who was. I mean, any filmmaker who's good, what's up on the screen is going to differ from what's on the page.
Yeah.
I think that it just goes, it follows. There's not even a question. You can't make a movie on a page.
I want to talk a little bit more about your personal history with Marty. When did you first meet him? How did that first meeting come about?
20 years ago, and I became his archivist, his video archivist, kind of by chance. But, I knew Marty's work backwards and forwards. And then I took over his film archive, and then I started writing for him different things. And then I wrote his Italian documentary.
Have you met people in your travels who love film equal or as much, or where do you place his love of film?
I've met plenty of people who love film as much. There was an American Masters episode about him in the early 90s where someone asked him, something like "film is your whole life," or something like that, and he got really pissed. I mean, he just said, "Well, it's as if I don't read, it's as if I don't go out, it's as if I don't, I don't know what to say."
Do you find him still to be a student of film?
Yeah.
How do you judge that? What's that silhouette of someone who's a student of film?
How many filmmakers who are 68 years old do you know who watch, new films from South Korea?
Right.
He's open to seeing new things and then to going back and exploring stuff again, and always looking at it with a fresh eye.
Yeah. Where do you think his preoccupations are right now?
His preoccupations with finishing Hugo Cabret, and a documentary about George Harrison that's been in the works for a long time.
How much does Marty struggle with financing in the way that
it's tough, but he's finally got it together.
Have you had any moments where you've talked to him about working with 3D? What is his...
I've looked at 3D movies with him.
What do you think his eyes see when they see 3D? How is he trying to use 3D, do you think?
Well, first of all, he was thinking about making this film in 3D a long time before Avatar. And the current 3D craze, and then obviously it became like a very, commercial consideration. He wouldn't have made it if he didn't think that it would fit the subject, and in this case it really does, because in fact, part of the subject of this movie is cinema, because it's about Georges Méliès.
The great magician in cinema.
Magician, and one of the first filmmakers. He would never even dream of doing something unless he approached it and thought through the properties of it very carefully. It was a long shoot, I think partly because he was, working with, it's a different way of seeing space.